Trump continued, "One thing led to another, and now I'm talking about building a large luxury hotel across the street from the Kremlin in partnership with the Soviet government." Trump's chatty version of events is incomplete. According to Natalia Dubinina, the actual story involved a more determined effort by the Soviet government to seek out Trump. In February 1985, Khrushchev complained again about the lack of appreciable results of recruitment against the Americans in most residencies. The ambassador arrived in New York in March 1986. His original job was Soviet ambassador to the United Nations. His daughter Dubinina was already living in the city with her family, and she was part of the Soviet UN delegation. Dubinin wouldn't have answered to the KGB, and his role wasn't formally an intelligence one, but he would have had close contacts with the power apparatus in Moscow. Mr. Dubinin enjoyed greater trust than other lesser ambassadors. Dubinin said she picked up her father at the airport. It was his first time in New York City. She took him on a tour. The first building they saw was Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue. She told Komolskaya Pravda newspaper. Dubinin was so excited he decided to go inside to meet the building's owner. They got into the elevator. At the top, Dubinina said they met Trump. The ambassador, fluent in English and a brilliant master of negotiations, charmed the busy Trump, telling him, "The first thing I saw in the city is your tower." Dubinin said Trump melted at once. He is an emotional person, somewhat impulsive. He needs recognition. And of course, when he gets it, he likes it. My father's visit worked on him, Trump, like honey to a bee. This encounter happened 6 months before the Estee Lauder lunch. In Ms. Dubinin's account, she admits her father was trying to hook Trump. The man from Moscow wasn't a wide-eyed rube, but a veteran diplomat who served in France and Spain and translated for Nikita Khrushchev when he met with Charles de Gaulle at the Élysée Palace in Paris. He had seen plenty of impressive buildings. There were many ambitious real estate developers in the United States. Why had Moscow picked Trump? Weeks after his first Trump meeting, Dubinin was named Soviet ambassador to Washington. In The Art of the Deal, Trump writes, "In January 1987, I got a letter from Yuri Dubinin, the Soviet ambassador to the United States, that began, 'It is a pleasure for me to relay some good news from Moscow.'" Went on to say that the leading Soviet state agency for international tourism, Goskomintourist, had expressed interest in pursuing a joint venture to construct and manage a hotel in Moscow. According to Viktor Suvorov, a former GRU military spy, and others, the KGB ran Interest, the agency to which Trump referred. It functioned as a subsidiary KGB branch. Initiated in 1929 by Stalin, Interest was the Soviet Union's official state travel agency. Its job was to vet and monitor all foreigners coming into the Soviet Union. "In my time, it was KGB," Suvorov said. "They gave permission for people to visit." The KGB's first and second directorates routinely received lists of prospective visitors to the country based on their visa applications. As a GRU operative, Suvorov was personally involved in recruitment, albeit for a rival service to the KGB. Soviet spy agencies were always interested in cultivating young, ambitious people, he said, an upwardly mobile businessman, a scientist, a guy with a future. Once in Moscow, they would receive lavish hospitality. Everything is free. There are good parties with nice girls. It could be a sauna and girls and who knows what else. The hotel rooms or villa were under 24-hour control, with security cameras and so on, Suvorov said. The interest is only one, to collect some information and keep that information about him for the future. These dirty tricks operations were all about the long term, Suvorov said. After 10 or 20 years, some of them would be nobody, but others would have risen to positions of influence in their own countries. Suvorov explained, "It's at this point you say, 'Knock, knock. Do you remember the marvelous time in Moscow? It was a wonderful evening. You were so drunk. You don't remember? We just show you something for your good memory." By January 1987, Trump was closer to the prominent person status of Khrushchev's note. Dubinin deemed Trump interesting enough to arrange his trip to Moscow. Another 30-something US-based Soviet diplomat, Vitaly Churkin, the future UN ambassador, helped put it together. On July 4, 1987, Trump flew to Moscow for the first time, together with Ivana and Lisa Calandra, Ivana's Italian-American assistant. Moscow was, Trump wrote, an extraordinary experience. The Trumps stayed in Lenin's suite at the National Hotel at the bottom of Tverskaya Street near Red Square. 70 years earlier, in October 1917, Lenin and his wife, Nadezhda Krupskaya, had spent a week in room 107. The hotel was linked to the glass and concrete Interest complex next door and was, in effect, under KGB control. The Lenin suite would have been bugged. Meanwhile, the mausoleum containing the Bolshevik leader's embalmed corpse was a short walk away. Other Soviet leaders were interred beneath the Kremlin's wall in a communist pantheon: Stalin, Brezhnev, Andropov, Khrushchev's old mentor, and Dzerzhinsky. According to The Art of the Deal, Trump toured a half-dozen potential sites for a hotel, including several near Red Square. "I was impressed with the ambition of Soviet officials to make a deal," he writes. He also visited Leningrad, later St. Petersburg. A photo shows Donald and Ivana standing in Palace Square, he in a suit, she in a red polka dot blouse with a string of pearls. Behind them are the Winter Palace and the State Hermitage Museum. That July, the Soviet press wrote enthusiastically about the visit of a foreign celebrity. This was Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the Nobel Prize-winning novelist and journalist. Pravda featured a long conversation between the Colombian guest and Gorbachev. Garcia Marquez spoke of how South Americans, himself included, sympathized with socialism and the USSR. Moscow brought Garcia Marquez over for a film festival. Trump's visit appears to have attracted less attention. There is no mention of him in Moscow's Russian State Library newspaper archive. Either his visit went unreported, or any articles featuring it have been quietly removed. Press clippings do record a visit by a West German official and an Indian cultural festival. The KGB's private dossier on Trump, by contrast, would have gotten larger. The agency's multi-page profile would have been enriched with fresh material, including anything gleaned via eavesdropping. Nothing came of the trip, at least nothing in terms of business opportunities inside Russia. This pattern of failure would be repeated in Trump's subsequent trips to Moscow. But Trump flew back to New York with a new sense of strategic direction. For the first time, he gave serious indications that he was considering a career in politics, not as mayor or governor or senator. Trump was thinking about running for president. In July 1987, Mr. Trump went after the biggest casino of all, the Taj Mahal, which Resorts International, builder of Atlantic City's first casino, was erecting. After buying a controlling interest in Resorts from the estate of its founder, Mr. Trump battled the talk show host Merv Griffin for control of the company. In the end, Mr. Griffin got the company, while Mr. Trump won the still unfinished Taj Mahal. Mr. Trump, while in Paris with his wife on the return trip from Moscow in July 1987, said reaching a deal with the Russians wouldn't be for the money. He would do it for the prestige. Mr. Trump visited Moscow in July 1987. There is not much else in the public record to describe his visit, except Trump's own recollection in The Art of the Deal that Soviet officials were eager for him to build a hotel there. It never happened. Mr. Trump returned from Moscow fired up with political ambition. He began the first of a long series of presidential flirtations, which included a flashy trip to New Hampshire. 2 months after his Moscow visit, Mr. Trump spent almost $100,000 on a series of full-page newspaper ads that published a political manifesto. An open letter from Donald J. Trump on why America should stop paying to defend countries that can afford to defend themselves, as Trump labeled it, launched angry populist charges against the Allies that benefited from the umbrella of American military protection. After World War II, the U.S. had created a liberal international order and underwritten its safety by maintaining the world's strongest military. Why are these nations not paying the United States for the human lives and billions of dollars we are losing to protect their interest? Trump's letter avoided the question of whom the U.S. was protecting those countries from. The primary answer, of course, was the Soviet Union. A central goal of Soviet and later Russian foreign policy was to split the U.S. from its allies. December 9, 1987, Donald Trump attended a State Department lunch with Gorbachev. In the receiving line, Gorbachev asked Trump to build a hotel in Moscow, Trump told reporters.